You know why I can never be scared of posting weed, like, despite how many people tell me trash about it? Look, where were you when weed saved me from dying? Where were you? My name is Shalom Dogo. I'm a free thinker. I would like to consider myself a liberal. Yeah. And I'm really the most complicated and yet the most easy to understand person that you'd ever meet. That's just how it is.
Is weed a gateway drug?
No. I'm Dr. Ndadi Zochikun. I'm a medical doctor and a model.
What's your opinion on weed?
Okay, well, me, I like Ibushal. At least they give vibes, and somebody can be, can come out of his shell or her shell.
Do you consider yourself a stoner?
Yeah, for life.
When was the first time you smoked weed?
November 2020.
That extent.
I was coming off a heartbreak, so.
Who influenced your intake of weed?
One of my former friends, her now ex-boyfriend, gave me my first blunt.
What is the feeling of weed?
It's quite difficult to explain like how marijuana feels because it's different for everybody. I mean, we're all on different planes of consciousness, so you can't really tell. But for me, it's kind of like I'm floating. I'm everything and I'm nothing. Like I'm just there. And then it physically manifests as this calm temperament. I'm just chilled and just smiling at everybody, just in my own lane. Like wherever I am, once I'm high, I'm very withdrawn into myself because it's not just me. In this moment of highness or being high, I am on a different plane of consciousness. And to participate in that plane, which is in my head, and still be present here in the physical, it's quite tasking. So I'd rather just stay by myself and focus on what's happening up here because it's usually a lot more exciting.
In this life, we don't need to stress about, why are you taking weed, why are you not taking weed? But most especially, like, based on I'm still in school, I look at how my friends, they affect my friends. My close friends, some surprisingly makes the person's brain sharper after getting high. Some brings idea to the person. Then there are some that makes your life as if you don't just carry and gone. You get that kind of something. I get highness. Wherever, if you're happy, highness is good for some people. Why some, it affects their life negatively. That's why our parents are always like, when they hear the whole weed, it's like...
In your medical opinion, is cannabis an addictive drug?
Yes. Yes,
In
it is.
what way?
Usually when people say addiction, what they think is chemical addiction. That's when substances that when you don't take them, you have withdrawal symptoms. People usually tie addiction to withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
But that's a narrow definition of addiction because you can be addicted to gambling. So addiction is usually, something that triggers, I'll try not to get too medical, there's a dopamine release system. So there are a number of things that you can do, including taking chemical substances that can cause the release of dopamine. And then over time, you crave it. And then you want to get that feeling. And then over time, you get tolerance to that. Maybe let's say if it was speeding that used to give you that. That's a random example, not that speeding does that. But if it was speeding, maybe over time, as you become maybe speeding doesn't do it as much for you now. You now want to jump off a cliff. Yeah. You want to skydive, stuff like that. So when you develop tolerance to it, that basically, that addiction, you crave it. You crave that release of dopamine. So that is generally the definition of addiction. And when you use that, weed falls under that. But when you use it it comes from the angle of something that if you don't take, you have withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
Weed does not qualify as much.
I like to speak in terms of energy and vibrations. And so I believe that everything has everything has life, and life is characterized by rhythm. So everything is constantly vibrating, it's constantly in motion, which means that everything has its vibrational frequency. And it's like a scale. There's the two extremes, and then there's the middle part, which is like an equilibrium. And so let's say low and high vibrations, and then everywhere else in between. So it's kind of like a spectrum that can be walked through. And there are certain things, because like weed is natural, it's from nature. So it's naturally high vibrational, because nature, the earth, Mother Earth, still preserves her high vibrational nature, which is why we rely on the earth to survive. So the frequency of weed, the marijuana plant, is very, very, very high. And so it helps to raise our own frequency, which is not as high as that of the weed plant. So when you'd find that when you smoke a strain that is higher vibrational than you are, it would elevate your own consciousness. It would increase your own vibration. On the contrary, if you take a strain that is not really that is lower vibrational than you are, maybe like your vibration is higher than that strain, you would find that it either brings you down, like the calm down is actually really intense. You start to feel the opposite, right? And then it's affecting you adversely. So you would have to be a really, really strong person mentally to climb out of that intense negativity. This is what other substances actually do. There are some very negative, low vibrational substances, like some kind of drugs, perhaps, or even alcohol. But weed, on the other hand, is high vibrational, like it's more freeing.
A friend of mine, during exams and all, he always takes it, he smokes Igbo, and
Is
he
he a medical
feels
student?
no, he's not. And then he's all good. He remembers everything he read and all, and then he smashes it. But anytime he doesn't take it, I understand that one probably might be for substance abuse, but well, the highness and everything gives another form of feeling, vibes and all. That's it, basically, for me.
Then again, you go and smoke the one your head cannot carry. That's just know your limits. That's what most times my friends, when they tell you, like stoners, they tell you know your limits. Most times people are like, oh, you're smoking something like Colorado, for example. For me, no, not for me. For someone else, you can take one drag, or no, you don't drag, like you drag it, you don't puff it out. Jesus. No, I don't know anything, but you get.
Yes.
But some people, it's like when they puff it out, you know, they're not taking it in. They're like, oh, it doesn't do me anything. Then you now go to somewhere where they're telling you, drag it, take it in. You now take one, take two, take three, you'll be on social media. Your head has not come.
Madness.
You get that kind of something. So most times, you always know your limits. Most times, just to do whatever makes you happy. This life is too short for, oh, don't take weed, don't take. Whatever makes you happy, you
All the
do it.
controversy
Yes,
around
you
it
get.
is not needed.
Yeah.
Weed makes your heart beat faster and causes constriction of the vessels. So when your body becomes adapted to that, maybe if you bend down and you stand up suddenly, you feel dizzy. That's what postural hypertension is. It can cause excessive vomiting. It can cause, in people who have the genetic inclinations to that, it can cause psychosis. It can cause anxiety disorders. It's funny with anxiety disorders because it's used to treat anxiety
Yes.
disorders, and it can cause anxiety disorders.
Okay.
So
In simple terms, I'm mentally ill. So my lifestyle is not quite conforming to this neurotypical world, and so I'm divergent, basically. Weed, when I take weed, this is very difficult for me to explain, but it seems like it exaggerates all my symptoms. Like, I'm on a normal day, maybe like I'm this level of mentally ill. When I take weed, it's like this level of mentally ill, but somehow I'm able to control it. And so it gives my brain something more tasking to do to maintain my sanity while I'm teetering on like the brinks of insanity. So it just keeps my brain engaged, and that's what kind of translates to a normal life for me. Because while that internal conflict is going on in my head, while my subconscious and conscious are fighting for control, I have to maintain like a physical appearance of stability. So that's why you see me so calm, so reserved, because there's a war happening in my head. There's an intense conflict that's happening in my head, that if I should let go of control in some sense, I would unravel, and they'll turn me like a madwoman or something. She's psycho.
Most studies agree that weed does not shorten your lifespan. What it does, the effects are mostly mental. So if it's going to have effects on you, it's going to be your cognitive ability and all that. It's not exactly how long you live. Most studies agree on that.
There are some people that they take it in a way that they'll start selling their father's land just because you want to be high. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You miss your classes. You know, like, there's this my friend, I won't mention him. He's a stoner, but he doesn't miss his class. His CGPA is high. Strong, this one, you know that if you look at his bag, you know that this one, they call him weed. Get that kind of something. Then there are some that want to show off. They can. Uncle, auntie, what are you doing?
It helps me to escape reality, this reality that is not real to me. So it helps me to build my own reality. And it's like, when I'm connected with the marijuana plant, there is a division between my individuality, which is why I can experience everything as if I am everything. So there's no more ego, there's no more self. And that's what weed does to you. It breaks apart that your sense of self, your sense of individuality, which you call the ego. So there's a sort of ego death, and you become one with everything. That's it for me.
I don't take too much of it.
Don't take too much.
Because
of
too
it.
much of there's literally nothing on earth that too much of it is not bad. Too much of water is bad. Too much of food is bad. Too much of everything is bad. So if you're going to do it, just try to exercise moderation.
Just know your limit before your head will knock. That's like the most know your limits. Know your. There are different types. If you can smoke loud, smoke it. If you can smoke Mali Kush, take AZ. Just if you want to start, you know you have to start with AZ. That one is like you get. And there are some when you're smoking it, don't go and over drag it, let it enter your head. If you're not used to it, just be puffing it out. All this is what my friends gist me about. I don't know.
Every average Nigerian parent would. But the thing is, I've always been the black sheep. I've always owned my my individuality. I've always known that I was different, and it cost me a lot of pain growing up, but it molded me into being the confident, authentic person that I am now, because now I would just rather be me, do me, and let the world adjust. So my parents have always been a rebel, so they don't really. Now they've just, yes, exactly, they just let me to be me. They just let me to be myself, and they just go with the flow.
I'm of the opinion that every drug should be legal. Every drug should be legal. You should have your right to decide how you want to kill yourself. Because if you don't take weed, for example, if you don't take cocaine, at some point you'll still die. So if this is your poison, if you decide that this is what you want to kill you, I feel like it's your right. After all, it's you that is going to pay the medical bills if you have to go to the hospital. So that's from the point of view of it being legal. So I'm of the opinion that everything should be legal. Then let's the church preach the moral part. Let them now say, the church, the mosque, and whatever, let them now say that taking this is wrong, and then based on your own personal sense of morality, you can now decide I should or I shouldn't. But from the point of legislation, it should be legal, in my opinion.
Everything that I have said previously, leading up to this moment, nobody, for the non-smokers especially, they don't see that weed has this beautiful experience. They see weed because of indoctrination, because this is what we were grown up listening to. This is what we were told while we were growing up, that we shouldn't smoke Igbo, there are people who go mad. The thing is, when you actually get to it, like when we actually get down to it, you would see that the world is not real. It's an illusion that people are desperately trying to hold on to. So when you see anything that threatens that sense of reality to them, it scares them. They don't want to go down that lane because they find peace in the known. They find peace in what they know, what is familiar to them, their familiar experiences. So they can't really let themselves break out of that bounds of familiarity. So when anybody tries to threaten that, when anything tries to threaten that, they would clamp down on it. And that's why we have marijuana classed under like the schedule. Yeah. And that's the funny thing, yeah, because marijuana is now schedule 1 and cocaine is like schedule 2 or 3. Like they made marijuana so high up that everybody is just clamping down on it. And the funny thing is that now marijuana is being used for mental health research. Do you like now they're now trying to tap into the I don't know why anybody would make nature illegal. It doesn't make any sense.
Weed does this thing. It inhibits brain development in people, I think, under 21 years. So in people under 21 years, it inhibits brain development. And it's also a problem because those are psychotic. Yeah, it inhibits brain development, yes. Okay. And then it's also a problem because the psychosis I mentioned, anxiety problems and all that, in normal people, that's maybe somebody that started smoking weed at like 25, 27, if you stop smoking weed for a couple of months, they'll probably go away. But in people who started smoking at a young age, maybe 16, 17, they are less likely to go away. So it's a problem.
Sinibo is, I'm sorry to say, but it's actually good, but some persons would not want to do it, yes.
Weed will save your life. Weed will save your life.
Can you emphasize that?
I used to be this person who was so, should I say that I was so crippled by depression and anxiety. I used to be surrounded with this intense darkness because everything felt so, I don't know how to explain this in logical terms because my brain would just not interpret for me, but I will try. It's like everything looked so bleak and so gloomy, this dark cloud overhead kind of thing, and I was not living at all. I was barely just getting by. I was very suicidal as well. I just, was tired, just wanted to end it all. But I started smoking weed, and for the first time in my life, I saw light. I don't know how it happened. It seemed like I found myself. I had always been like this, but I had clamped down on it because it was not normal. So I had these extraordinary gifts, and I just knew that I'm different from, like what's obtainable. But because it caused my parents so much pain, me being myself caused them so much pain, they wanted to clamp down on me, and so it was hurting me as well. But I didn't want to hurt them, so I had to force myself to kind of conform. But I smoked weed, and for the first time I found my own self. I found my individuality. I found my superpowers. It seemed like I began my life again. And all of that that fateful day in November 2020, I can't remember what date, everything that happened from that moment, it shaped who I am now. And I would say that finding marijuana, finding weed is like the best thing to ever happen to me, really.
So would you say that weed has done more good than harm in the society, in your opinion?
I ain't seen nobody die from smoking weed. But everybody keeps dying from alcohol this, alcohol that, kidney this, kidney that. Like, the fuck?
Alright. It was nice having you on our show.
It was nice being here.
Hope you guys found this video very interesting and educative. If you did, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps the algorithm. Thank you.